Hey, hello everyone. This is the Last Raider, and today we're going to talk about the AR-15 because this is a video I've been wanting to do for a while on reasons for wanting one of these things. Okay, you hear a lot of people say, "Why do you need it?" Um, I've never realized anything in the Constitution is a need, other than the fact that the need is protected by. But I guess what it would be is your choice is protected from the government by the Constitution. But there's a lot of people wanting to know, idly curious, people who are genuine want to know why an AR-15. Why is it you would want one of these rifles? And I'm going to go on want because the purpose of need, you can make the arguments all you want, but this whole argument of do you need this comes down pretty much to do you need more than just basic amenities to live or just basics to live? So we're going to go on the purpose of why you would want this. And given my experience on this, I'm just going to tell everybody. Back during the Obama administration, probably a month before Sandy Hook happened, I made the decision to get an AR-15 because I'd always been enamored by it. That was probably the reasoning. I had family members who were in the military, and a lot of them several of my family members had said that the M16 was a good gun. I had members in Desert Storm who had also, they had done stuff in Vietnam. They'd also done stuff in Desert Storm. And they said, the M16, the M4, they're a very good rifle. I mean, for accuracy purposes. If you could ever get a chance to get an AR-15, that'd be the way to do it because it's a civilian component. And all modern day AR-15s, that's what they are. They're just the civilian variant. Now, some people make we'll sit back and tell you, just history-wise, they'll tell you the AR-15 was developed before the M16 and the M4. Yeah and no. The AR-15 that they're referring to was a military variant that was specifically to be sold to the military. And afterward, the AR-15 that's being sold now, because when you sell something to the military for it to be compliant for what the military wants or what the military wants it to do, there are certain requirements for a battlefield rifle for the military. And one of those requirements is full auto or burst fire capability. Now, what does that mean? It just means that your rifle becomes more lethal per trigger pull. A lot of people don't understand how that could be, but for instance, with an M16 or an AR-15, if you take an AR-15 now that you can buy off the shelves as a civilian, you pull the trigger one time, it pops out a bullet. Now, some people say, oh, you just pull the trigger real rapidly. Yeah, that's true. You can pull the trigger rapidly. But imagine an AR-15 that when you pull the trigger, 3 rounds come out instead of just 1 per trigger pull. So you got a 3-for-1 deal going on there. So then your rapid fire pulling from the trigger becomes even more lethal. That's the military variant. It can burst fire, or you can get the full auto variant, which is you just pull the trigger down, you hold it one time, and it dumps the entire magazine out. So I mean, in terms of lethality. Now the reason being on that is when Armalite did this, that's what the AR stands for. The first batch of AR-15s that came out, they didn't have dust covers or forward assists or anything like that, and the military eventually wanted the forward assist and the dust cover added in, to make the rifle more durable, more weather resistant, and things like that. But after that was over with, Armalite and Colt turned around and said, you know what, let's take the Armalite that we've got and sell it to the civilian market. So in order to sell it to the civilian market, in other words, you want to sell as many of these rifles as possible, you don't want people to go through all the advanced paperwork, because back at the time, that's when the machine gun ban came out. Basically, it was a ban on all new fully automatic weapon systems out there. And what happened was, in order to make that AR-15 that they gave to the military compliant for civilian use, because you want to sell as many as possible, and the easiest way to sell as many as possible is to reduce the level of paperwork, they had to make the AR-15 civilian compliant by reducing it down to, at the very minimum, a semi-automatic. So the AR-15 then becomes a semi-automatic, and there you go. Today, the civilian AR is can it be used in a battlefield? Yes, it can. But is it as useful as a burst fire M16? Probably not, because the burst fire M16 has suppression fire. In certain situations, the AR-15 probably is most effective. And I'm going on a tangent on that. So, I mean, well, I could explain that nonsense at depth. But the reason I wanted an AR-15 was my family members told me a lot. They said, it's a really good rifle. If you're ever at home, if you're going to be at the house, you could defend yourself with a pistol, or you could defend yourself with something bigger. At the time, Missouri had come off of its gun control. We had finally thrown the tyrants out of our offices and, left communism and went straight capitalism, and left our assault weapons. Well, the assault weapons ban was left behind. We left behind our pistol ban at the same time. Pretty much went from California to from what California is today to what Texas used to be. And when that was all said and done, Missourians, we were going out. You could buy an AR-15 for a little over $400. So that time I wanted to grab an AR. About a month later, Sandy Hook happened, and I tried to go around finding an AR-15. Could not find a completed rifle, because the rifle went from $400 to $2,000 because everyone bought them up. Basically, Sandy Hook happened. Obama came out and declared he was going to go out. He was going to outlaw the AR-15. Everybody went out and bought them because they knew there was a grandfather clause going to come in with it. And so, because the supply of AR-15s was suddenly sucked up real quick, gun dealers realized, well, we can jack the price up because someone's going to buy one of these. So they jacked the price up to about $2,000 or $3,000 for a very basic rifle. Okay. Battery power going down. Anyway, so on that notion, I was really wanting to get an AR-15, but could not get one because completed rifles were ungodly expensive. There was one guy at a gun store who came in with about 2 pickup trucks and bought about $2 or $3 million worth of AR-15s, magazines, ammunition, and gun parts. Okay, that's how bad. And that was the Friday of when Obama announced he was going to do that. So it was nuts. I went through 12 counties across my state trying to find at least one dealer selling for $400. The last dealer I went to said, you're not going to get one for $400 ever again. Now you can almost buy one for $300 thanks to Ruger. But I mean, that being said, I finally went over and I talked with an old gunsmith of mine who was, a Vietnam vet, done gunsmithery a lot. I talked with him plenty of times. He said, you know what? There's no way a civilian like you is going to have $2,000. I said, well, yeah, not right now, at least. He said, so I'll tell you what. He said, I'll let you in on a little secret. I was like, what is that? He said, you can probably build your own AR. And that's one of the reasons I went with how I finally got it. I went into a gun show because I could not find. I was going for first the lower receiver. That's what I needed. And the lower receiver requires a background check. So I went to a gun show because I couldn't find them anywhere else. It's one of those parts that the thing is with building an AR-15, you can order almost every single part in Missouri in the mail and have it delivered directly to your home, except for the lower receiver. Now, there is an exception with 80% lowers because those are not considered firearms. But what I did was I eventually found a dealer at a gun show who had about 2 or 3 lower receivers left, bought one for about $270-something, I believe, almost $300, which sounds expensive considering Anderson lower receivers are about $65 right now. But I up and bought that because at the time the parts were really expensive. Then I just went through buying whatever I wanted. What I wanted was something accurate. Because me and the wife were looking at houses, and we decided, we want to get out of the city and get into the country because we could do more. Our local town has all kinds of permits you've got to do. It's horrible. It's killing the town, basically. But I digress. Anyway, eventually I bought enough parts, and with some YouTube videos, with a YouTube video as my guide, and a burger and a root beer as fuel for the fire, and a whole box full of AR-15 parts, I managed to build an entire AR-15. And I remember the day I first shot it off, told my wife to stand by the door. And she goes, why am I standing by the door? And I said, because you're a nurse, you have trauma experience, and I have just built a rifle for the first time with no gunsmithing experience. So if this thing blows up and hurts me, you've got to keep me alive until the freaking ambulance gets here. Which turns out the whole gun worked. And some people are like, well, you know, you were kind of scared. Well, yeah, I was a little scared of it because I'd never actually built an AR-15. I'd never built a gun before in my life. So it was kind of a moment where I'm like, okay, we're going to hold this thing back, hold it by the stock, lift my face back as far as I can, hope to God this don't blow up. Well, first round, it didn't blow up. After a while, I put about 1,000 rounds of ammunition through it. Sucker runs fine as ever. The thing about the AR-15, though, is once I got done with that one, the one thing I remember that gunsmith telling me was, be careful, because when you build one, you'll find an excuse to build another one. So while I was at the house, my wife was complaining about the AR-15 when we shot it. Because it has a solid stock, she can't adjust it and move it around a bit to make it, you know, more compliant to her. Because she's actually almost under 5 foot. She's like 5'2". So, yeah. I'm 6'2", and long orangutan arms and all that, as she likes to call it. So, what I did was I ended up turning around, and I built another AR-15 just recently with an Anders lower. It actually cost me a whole lot less money to build this one, and I could build it a lot faster than the other one, because I was looking for specific parts, but trying to find deals on it. And I found actually a lot of cheap parts to build this one with. My mom is now telling me she wants to get my dad a gun. So now I'm looking through parts, telling her, you know, you got to buy this, you got to buy that. My dad wants a full-size AR-15. He always was marveling at the accuracy of the 223 in a full-size AR package. So a 20-inch barrel is what he's going to be getting with that one. But we're getting all the parts together, and then me and him are going to get him a lower receiver. I'm going to plop a parts kit down in front of him, and me and him are going to build it father and son, and have a bonding experience. But anyway, the thing was, I realized I needed the AR that I had, it had a free float barrel, a match grade 223, probably 12-inch 223 match grade barrel on it. Most of the gun is built for accuracy purposes. And I did some things specifically to hold accuracy. The solid A2 stock on it is designed to, for those of you that are just wondering, that's like it's a modernized variant of the M16 stock. It's not collapsible or adjustable whatsoever. And for free float, it just means that the handguard is connected only at the back, at the very farthest back section towards the receiver, where all the, the bolt and the magazine and everything goes at. And then it's not connected up the tip of the barrel, up more towards the barrel. It just is open right there and just stiff, so that any kind of maneuvering from my hand does not deviate for a little bit of medium range distance. I want something that I could accurately put down range without having to worry about hurting someone, without having to worry about where, if missing and the bullet ricocheting off a rock and God knows where it would go. So in doing that, I up and built the new AR-15. Which I threw some Magpul stuff on it. I got the Magpul barrel. I got the Magpul shroud. I got some real basic stuff on there, but it's designed as more of a home defense AR-15. This one in the photo here has a collapsible stock. Almost looks like a pistol variant, maybe. I'm not sure. It may be some type of pistol. I'm actually pulling this off Twitter right now just to show it off. Because one thing is, I'm holding my phone right now in the car, and this would be shaky as heck if I had my AR-15 on here, and I'd have to pull the camera back and all that nonsense. I need to get a better camera for doing YouTube stuff, probably. But digression. The thing is, with an AR-15, you don't have to be stuck with just one type of weapon system. If you look at this AR-15, you'll notice that, well, there's no way I can really explain this without you actually knowing what you're looking at. But basically, the AR-15, from the magazine to the buttstock, that's one piece. And then from the charging handle, or the upper receiver, to the barrel is another piece. And because of this, you have a design that has a couple of advantages over the AK-47 in terms of, or the G3, or a lot of other rifles that are comparable to the AR-15. And one of the reasons that this is an advantage on the AR-15 is, as a civilian gun owner, I realize that I need more than one weapon for more situations. If I want to go hunting, I'm going to use a different type of weapon than what I'm going to use for home defense. With the AR-15, you can actually build and tailor-make your gun or build specific weapons tailored to you, your personal preferences, down to the very tiniest minute details, and have them fine-tuned to you for a specific situation. For example, in just the hunting category, if I were to go out with a friend of my dad's, LV Reed, and I were to go out there and go rabbit hunting with him, I would not want to take a 5.56 or a 308 out there with me. I would want to take a 223 small game style weapon platform. Now I can take an AR upper receiver. I can pop there are two pins in the AR-15. One of them's right about where this guy's index finger is, and there's another one parallel to it right back where the pistol grip is. If you pop those two pins, the entire upper receiver comes off, which includes the bolt and the barrel and whatnot. Now, once that comes loose, you can then pop out the magazine. I can get a 22 upper, set that down there on top of it, pop the pins back in, and then get a specialized full-size mag that is set up to run a small amount of 223 inside of a magazine that'll fit inside the mag well at full size. And then I can go out and I've got a 223 rabbit hunting gun, semi-automatic. It's not bad. Now, if I want to beef this thing up to probably, 308, for instance, you could beef it up to a better hunting caliber. Up until recently, by the ATF, you could actually have a semi-automatic rifle pop the upper receiver off and put in a bolt-action 50 caliber, but they've changed the rulings on that, so now the upper receiver has to be considered like the lower receiver. In other words, you have to have a background check on the part that makes it a gun, and the receiver is what's considered that makes the gun a gun. So, which is why 80% lowers are so popular for these types of guns and for AK-47s, which I plan on doing an AK at some point if I can get the tools together. I've got most of the tools for an AR-15 with me gerrymandering some other things together and building one. And it's usually about like roll punches and a torque wrench, or an AR armorer's torque wrench. Basically, I've got an actual armorer's tool which has a long, giant handle on it. It's awesome. It was a great investment. I got it with my bolt. My bolt was like $25 at the time. They were selling a cheap bolt. And when I got the bolt for it, these guys were just trying to get rid of this one bolt from a company, I guess, that had went under. But the bolts were really good, so they had to get rid of them. So he offered me two for $50, and I said, I don't really need two. At the time, I didn't see myself making another AR. But he goes, well, I'll tell you what, I'll throw in this, and he pulls out this coated AR armor's wrench, and I'm like, I need this. Just the one hook in, just the end of it for the barrel nut I knew I needed. And then I found out that the armor's wrench actually lets you take the flash hider and everything else off. I was like, oh, cool, this is awesome. I got this all for like $50. So it was like $25 for the tool. I mean, it was a good investment, I have to admit. I actually got a deal at that one of the few times you can get one at a gun show. But yeah, with an AR-15, you can modify these things and put them to any type of caliber that you want. You can put any type of action. Right now, I think Fight Light Systems makes a belt-fed modification, which I want to build, an expensive saw-style AR-15 with the Fight Light system in it. I just don't have the money right now. It's one of those upgrades that's like, okay, you gotta pay like $1,000. I wish Fight Light would take their entire system and just sell you parts to it. So I could, buy it in pieces and then put it together, because that's actually more economically feasible. And that's another reason you would want one of these. Unlike most guns, like I would have to go out and buy an AK-47 or buy one of these others, which AKs are pretty cheap to begin with. But ARs have quickly become cheap as well, because the market is just absolutely saturated. So if you're going to get an AR-15, customization is what's actually running the AR market right now. The fact that you can build an AR-15 specifically tailored to you. Like for a rifle that I would build for my wife would be completely different for a rifle I would build. My wife doesn't do any hunting. She's not expecting to do any long range shooting. She's going to be fighting. If she used it, would be for self-defensive purposes. And so at distances, I'd probably make her a pistol AR with a arm guard with an arm brace on it, and then probably chamber it up in like a 9mm or something like that. give her like a 100-round Glock mag, those double drum beta 100-round Glock mags, and a couple of stick mags attached to the sides of it, and let her just go to town with it. For me, I might do some hog hunting at some point in time. I may want something really powerful enough to take a pig down. So I may have a rifle with multiple different upper receivers. The kicker here is that, and like I said, customization is one of those things, and also affordability. Most of the parts, I think, probably like for those who are interested in buying an AR at this point in time in 2020, an AR-15, the most expensive parts you're going to spend on are probably the bolt carrier system, the upper receiver, and the barrel. Those systems are going to be the most expensive. And I mean, what I mean by most expensive, I mean the likelihood of you finding those parts for under $100 is very remote. Everything else, from the magazine to the lower receiver to the trigger to the pistol grip to the stock, you can find parts like that are under $100. Now, are they like the really fancy stuff? No, they're probably not. But you can build an AR-15 for probably under $400. And I mean, having an AR, just even a base spec AR-15 is better than a lot of rifles now in the market. And you have a lot of capabilities. And the AR-15, that's what it is. It's just a general purpose rifle designed for, general purpose use. If you have to be accurate, it can be accurate up to close to 600 yards. If you've got to have firepower, you have firepower at your disposal. It's a really rugged system, and not as rugged as an AK-47 probably. Like I said, I'd like to have an AK because I've just been sitting back looking at it, and I want to do it probably because of the challenge, because I've done the AR-15 and I'm like, okay, we've assembled an AR-15, let's try to actually cut some metal and build an AK-47. So yeah, that would be interesting in my opinion. I like the challenge of building things, and some guys like Gundam models. Me, I'm building guns. Or I'm putting guns together. But anyway, I hope that clears a couple things up on the AR-15. Lets you know just how customizable this thing is. Like I said, you can literally have an AR-15 that if the law was not if the law was not a difficulty, you could have one AR-15 and multiple uppers and have a retarded amount of firepower at your disposal, or retarded amount of guns at your disposal. You could literally have a whole entire. I think one man said it best. He said the AR-15 is the Lego of guns. It's also the poor man's arsenal. In other words, yeah, it's expensive when you buy one, but if you can probably buy upper receivers for a little bit of nothing, and it can do multiple different things. You can go 9mm. They shoot like almost every single caliber in existence. But as usual, like I said, those are the reasons you end up wanting an AR-15 afterward. Don't believe everyone when they say you want it just for military purposes. That usually is what starts a person on it. They want something, tactical. They want something that looks like something you'd take to the military, or something you'd see in a movie. And then after you get done, you realize this thing can do this particular job better, but now that I've seen some other parts, I want to see what this gun can do. Like I said, there are belt-fed ARs, there are bolt-action AR-15s, there are pump-action AR-15s for the frick. I mean, I don't know why. Well, I know why you'd want that, because some states are regulated and they restrict some crap. But anyway, yeah, tell me what you think about the AR-15. Any of y'all ever built one? Any of y'all ever worked on one? Share your AR stories with us. Also, be sure to like and comment on the video. It helps out this channel, and I can bring you some more awesome content like this. It also tells me what kind of content you guys like for me to bring you. Anyway, I am The Last Raider. I might try to bring another video sometime today. I'm not sure. But anyway, stay frosty, folks. Keep your head on a swivel, and I'll see y'all next time.